Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 229th episode of our first YouTube run through the House of Light expansion to Book of Hours, playing as the Archaeologist. We have actually gotten quite far through my to-do list, so I'm going to just scratch those out. So, sorry, I should have done this before I started the broadcast. Right now we're finishing the Affair of the Second Skin, and in fact one of the things I'm going to be doing to improve the speed at which I do the events, I took a small inventory of the various guests. The ones that I didn't make notes for were Yvette Corso and Peter Ictistus. Maybe that's a good excuse to invite them for the next salon. But for the most part I should be able to get through all of the guests reasonably quickly. So I'm gonna put two quick notes on my tablet here, just so I remember to do them. And then we will be good to begin. So I believe we still have Ibn al-Adim to satisfy as far as the Affair of the Second Skin is concerned. We finished the last of the of the caches, so until we get some memories, there's not going to be a whole lot for my consider verb to do. But that doesn't mean that we don't have things to do. And I will probably in this episode start showing some of the things I can do with the consider verb, on top of the ambition I mentioned to level up all of the different elements of the soul that I have. Okay, the Turquoise Hand. A calligraphic manual of Ramsund, which employs as exemplar text Fariduddin's Conference of the Birds. At noon, the sun moves like the beating of a wing. At sunset, he sends the herald child with her candle. At midnight, he sends the wind that extinguishes the candle flame. Commentary, illustrations, and interleavings carry revelations never intended in the original, a sense of history, and the senses of histories. That old lost music. In the right histories, every song ever sung still lingers in wind and echo, untouched by the demands of eternity. Any librarian can use this to establish a history and complete the game, but the Symergist and the Magnate can win a particular victory. Alright, so we're going to do the usual trick here. We will take that old lost music. We will then take the journal. We will apply relevant skills. So let's start with Sky. All right, so we've already got the nowhere determination. I also feel like, oh, hang on. City unbuilt will rise in noon. All right, so move that out of the way. I also think we have done the scale, but just in case. Oh wait, Millicant was the... maybe not. Make a determination. The shell origin. The Carapace Cross are a hybrid race and once we were the Carapace Cross. From the Segles kind, we inherited what we now call language. We long for what we were, and history too is hybrid. So I do think we did do that one before. And Fet. Make a determination. Speech, the key. Language is a key. It was language that opened the doors of the Mansis. Without language, we could have had no peace. Without language, we would still be beasts, worms, mud. Okay. I'm curious if I pull the... So I read that as saying there's 4 more for us to do. Now I still want to go through all of the books anyway, so I'm not going to prioritize based on certain gaps, but I will take a note that we're more than likely to have something in our list than not. All right, knock, a familiar passage. I have already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. Steam and scent both rise. It's ready. I think in preparation for the salon next season, what I'll do is I'll take care of the guests that I haven't taken proper records of. Excuse me. And what I may do is I'll build a salon around those individuals. So like Corso being present means something, and so what can I build around someone like Corso being present? Okay. So I believe the good doctor is the last of our second skin visitors. Dr. Ibn al-Adim, the Alapine, historian, doctor, and above all, traveler. The good doctor has been associated with all but one of the libraries of the Watchman's Tree. He was even secretary nunciant of Hush House for a little while, but he has never been on good terms with the Suppression Bureau. Peace be with you. I ask entry to the house. On the second skin. The Labite Abykassis of Marrakesh has begun to, let's be tactful here, to behave without decorum. I wish to understand why. Labites may consume only what is found in the sky. Abykassis seems to have altered his diet. It is important that I understand how. Oops. Echidna, the Legion, she who suckles serpents. Yes, I am aware that serpents do not generally suckle. I believe now that Abykassis has chosen to drink of what she provides. I do not know if there is anything to be done about that, but thank you, librarian. Alright, and another Porphyron. The Encastum Terminale of the Second History, it's the glowing crimson mauve of the Secret Histories. Porphyrine was venerated in secret by a confraternity of corresponding Cluniacs and Benedictines. Use an Encastum ink with your journal to make determinations and record histories. If the hours listen, the world changes. So, let's, I'll note that we have some empty spaces for busts. We have busts without a home. We've also exhausted all of the different books that we could be reading. So we've got, and this will be a fun one. So for those of you that don't know the answers to these, you may want to take a minute and think maybe what these answers might be. So the 10th librarian of the Curia of the Isle, a niche with a plaque, who departed but did not forget. 11th librarian of the Curia of the Isle, who returned to complete what he began. 12th librarian of the Curia of the Isle. This, of course, would be me. I could use whatever I want as my image. And the 13th librarian of the Curia of the Isle. If I have a successor, their image might stand here. There is actually a fun little detail about this, which at least for a while seemed to be a lesser-known feature of Book of Hours. But we'll maybe talk about that in the future. So, I never really took advantage of this until much later in my playthroughs. Let's start with Serena Blackwood. Investigate this object. I also don't think I was earning some money. And again, I could be leveling up the skills here, but I'll take care of my investigations and then move on. In fact, one thing that I could do if I find myself with some idle time, one of the things that might be interesting would be to investigate the various items inside the house. Towards a fundamental aesthetic, or the House of Glass, Julian Cosley considered this his masterwork. So, techniques for perception and analysis which permit invidious and apocalyptic conclusions. Probably the most assiduously suppressed book in history, the entire run was destroyed, even the presses were melted and dispersed, but the manuscript edition has survived. The perfect hegemony of the hours is perhaps eternal, but Cosley proposes and describes confinement inescapable, aesthetic and optical techniques which might contain even an hour, profoundly disrupting the order of the Mansis. He presents this as his own work, but there are hints here and there that he received inspiration or even assistance from the nowhere hour named Snow. Inescapable confinement. Everything ultimately comes down to a choice between eternity and history. There's only one place you're safe from both, and it's not a place anyone would want to be. It's a prison that can only exist in certain histories. And of course, this one has an archaeologist ending. So it occurred to me there was one thing that I neglected to do with the with one of the other memories, but we will at least address part of that here. So let's take our Better Whist, Millicant, Sights and Sensations. I don't have enough winter. Yep. Make a determination, white, the first flower. The watchman's tree is the covenant that forbids knowledge to mortals, but permits it in the covenant houses of the tree, like Brankrug Isle. The white flower of Calyptra, the silence that is given, was its first defense. When forbidden knowledge is known, it must be forgotten, but to be forgotten, it must first be known. The tree is rooted in paradox. Oh, hang on. Wrong one. Alright, so we've done the shell origin. So, an old sun, red and low. The sun is broken, at war with all his aspects. But in this history, there will be a prison for his worst self. The sun will be reconciled at last with his oldest nature, and so will I. Or the archaeologist variation on it. The sun is broken at war with all his aspects, but in this history, there will be a prison for his worst self. The sun will be reconciled at last with his oldest nature, and so will I. Okay, so actually, sorry, I thought there might have been something different in the square text, but it's the same. All right, so that's one potential ending that's specific to the archaeologist for me. I wonder if I'll be able to get away with this. All right, we've got speech the wound, language is a scar. It was language that tore open the Mansis. Without language, we could have had no wars. Without language, we would still be fire, sky, earth. Archaeologist victory. The gods from stone will be revenged. In this history, a prison will open to a certain hour of winter, and to the corruption that walks with me. Let the gods from stone take their revenge. The world will be safe from my shadow. Now, I did have an idea for how I might be able to... This is, again, more exploration than anything, so we'll do Volume 2. May not necessarily get me anything new, but... Okay, so we'll give this a few seconds. Serena Blackwood, this bust is carved from alabaster. Serena Blackwood, 10th librarian, a redoubtable scholar and administrator who quarreled with the prison governor and never completed her term. Okay, so basically I wanted sort of 5-second bursts, and then as far as I can, I'll just read another Newman text, because again, we're getting the details rather than trying to use them as an input to anything. This will probably make me sad, but hey, maybe not. All right. Gervinus van Loren. This bust is cast in highly polished bronze. Gervinus van Loren, 11th librarian of Hush House, an enigmatic recluse and reluctant ally of the Suppression Bureau, as skilled at closing ways as his predecessor Harry's was at opening them. Curate the busts. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. It is spring, and the landlady has served me a slice of her stargazy pie, with the pilchard heads poking cheekily through the hot crust. All right, so let's take some time and work towards some improvements. So I suppose at this point, maybe moving up whist would be the most sensible thing for me to do. Okay, so pyroglyphics. Now I would need an ithistry. I think this one's Horomachus. Oh no, this is ithistry. But it, oh, and it will take, but it won't take the whist, right? I think we actually ran into this before. So I think unless I could find something with ithistry. Oh, this might work. Strengthen my whist. Ithistry will ensure my whist endures. So the aim on... There's a couple of aims here. So one, I know what comes out of the librarian's past, present, future. I'm the 12th librarian of Hush House, and I too will be remembered. Although I'm not so sure I'm still going to get my triple plus for whist. We'll see. Also, I didn't really plan out the books that much. I started reading the extra ones and then I didn't follow through. Okay, Towards a Fundamental Aesthetic, 2nd edition, or The Refinements of Light. Julian Cosley never wanted or expected to write a 2nd edition of his masterwork. Julian Cosley long regarded Solomon Husher as a charlatan, but his friend Nina Lagasse painted 3 paintings before her death in 1895, and these paintings apparently convinced Cosley to change his mind. With considerable irritation, he revised his magnum opus. The perfect hegemony of the hours is perhaps eternal. Coseley had always championed history rather than eternity, the exceptions, limitations, contradictions of freedom, but Huscher's and Lagase's work convinced him to believe in the paradox of the eternal ending, a means in which perfection might be reconciled with freedom. He's not happy about it. This is perhaps the angriest book ever written in support of a peaceful philosophy of acceptance, but Coseley always was scrupulous about his conclusions. Eternity and history cannot be reconciled. Freedom cannot be perfection, not unless we understand the paradox of the eternal ending, and only in certain histories is that paradox possible. So I think for the purposes of the journal, we don't get any new information on this one. You have to use the ink. So we've already got the white. We've got... Sorry, it was white, yeah, and then nowhere would be sky, and then rose, actually I forget rose offhand, but I'm like 99% sure we've done it. Yeah, speech, the key. Emerandus Spitali, a fragment of iron alloy meteorite carefully inscribed and polished. Who gave us fire? Who gave us steel? What is the sound of dusk? Of what alloy is wind forged? Esoteric secrets of metallurgy and resonance are revealed, including directions towards the creation of a terrible bell. Newman the Bells of Ys. Ys by her arts found the strike tone that shakes the hours. For this reason, among many, the hours discouraged traffic with Ys, but a bell cast with this secret could speak the Ys note. And this has Edge, Forge, and Rose. So we'll start with the Edge. Alright, speech the sword. Language is a weapon. With language we breached the Mansus. Without language we could not have fought wars. Without language we would still be apes, beetles, stone. Okay, moving on. Make a determination. Red, the first flower. The Watchman's Tree is the covenant that forbids knowledge to mortals, but permits it in the covenant houses of the tree, like Brankrug Isle. The red flower of Calyptra, the fire fueled by truth, was its first defense. Fire consumes knowledge, but fire also gives light. The tree is rooted in paradox. And then I suppose, I mean, I do like getting all the details, but I sort of, I'm trying to remember actually if the, well, okay, I'll add this anyway, but I was really just wanting to see, did we have Forge before? So we've got one undiscovered, we've got, yeah, 2 undiscovered 20s here. Although I'm... I'm not sure what to make about these 25s. I guess that's exclusive to Bells of Ys. Okay. So that was one of the things I had wanted to do, incidentally, was clear out the busts. So we've got those. Now, we haven't necessarily sort of done that for every single character. But what I may do as once we sort of run out of things to do inside of the house, I may actually start investigating the various objects to get a little bit more of the story, and that'll be alongside reading some books. Okay, so that's 5 minutes, or sorry, 5 seconds. I want to try and get that sort of cue going for the texts. Although this needs crack tracks, so I'm not going to be able to... Well, I may not be able to do it for that one, but I should be able to do it for one of the scrolls. I'm gonna resist using the whist for now. As long as I remember the ones we haven't done, but it should be pretty easy. It's the root and then the sun disfigured. So I do have a couple of plans in terms of where I'd like to go with my elements of the soul. I suspect that's going to take quite a bit of my attention for the next little while, but I'd also like to make sure that I plan out the approach that I'm going to take. We have some time left in spring, but I don't want to treat that like it's infinite time, because I am going to want to do a salon shortly after. Coprolith omphalos. What is this? A tufted fossil of silken fiber, big as a child. Something consumed and something was consumed. If we interpret its interweavings, we might understand. The meaning of this object isn't something that one reads, but rather something that one follows, until at last one has passed 3 times around it, and one finds the meaning waiting at one's shoulder. Alright, Newman, weaving the world. The histories, they say, are braided like hair or tangled like roots. What is the shape of that knot? Funny you should ask. So I think a couple of these should be... I'm trying to think. You know what? I wanted to try and get clever with the desks, but I'm happy enough to just hop between them. Keep getting that one wrong. Make a determination. The horned axe, the oldest. The horned axe bears 2 blades, permits passage when passage is to be permitted, waits at the threshold. The horned axe, who forbids contradiction, is the oldest hour. Other hours may seem older, they are not older. Okay, so moon and nectar. Make a determination. Roots origin. Our ancestors were born naked in the roots of the wood. All we ever were has risen from that darkness. With our hands and our mouths, we shaped language from mud. With our mouths and our hands, we will shape our future. Okay. Make a determination, black the first flower. The watchman's tree is the covenant that forbids knowledge to mortals, but permits it in the covenant houses of the tree, like Brankrug Isle. The black flower of Calyptra, the night unwounded, was its first defense. Forbidden knowledge must not be spoken, must not be written, must not be known. The tree is rooted in night. Actually, I want to just double check here. Okay, we still have one unknown. The sun's design, a scorched slab of black corundum, minutely scratched on every side with intricate ideoglyphs. In the city of Emesa, beneath the Church of the Holy Belt, in a sarcophagus of black corundum, Elagabalus lies, accursed of Janus, neither long nor mortal, neither man nor woman, neither a liar nor speaker of truth, neither real nor imagined. On his light suffused skin is made manifest the sun and splendor's grand design. Elagabalus is the source of one half of this text. The source of the other half is obscure, but its power is evident. It is impossible to be certain if the sun really planned for us to enter eternity. It is impossible to be sure if the Grail, the Vagabond, and the Forge stole this birthright from us, or saved us from it. But there is a great secret here. The sun has charted his paths beyond walls and woods and bounds. When the sun lights our way, when we are ready, all of us will enter eternity, at least in the right history. So I don't remember if we have done... I don't think we've got the glorious origin yet. And we won't get it at that desk. Make a determination. The glorious origin. Our first sparks self-descended from from the light above the world, which we call the glory. Without the glory, we would be beasts in darkness, and the gifts of our past illuminate our future, which is eternity. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, that is it for the determinations. Nope, my bad. So I'll just double check. I believe we should get, Nock should be the Horned Axe, and Forge, I forget, but we have definitely done before. Right, Red the First Flower, I should have known that. Actually, let's, so, got Flowers, Moth, Grail, Oldest Speech, Origins. Oh, we're missing 2 origins. Huh. That doesn't make sense, though, because we're missing the... I don't see the lantern in here. Okay, that's interesting. So it's not necessarily going to give me a full recording of everything? I think we're okay, but... I'll keep an eye on that. All right, I'm sorry for the extra time, but this is close to a milestone that I wanted. So we are getting a clearer idea in terms of the different pieces that we have to work with. I think the order in which I'm going to do things, I'm going to mess around with my elements of the soul for a little bit so that I'll level those up as far as seems reasonable. After that, I think I'm going to make some harder decisions in terms of committing certain things to the journal. And then that should hopefully take us to the end of spring. So we'll do a salon and learn a little bit more about our various guests. But all of that will be in a future episode. So thank you very much for watching. Until then, take care.